Imagine coming home after 3 long years, desperate to hug your daughter and newborn granddaughter. But when you finally step onto the shore, the entire town is gone, not just evacuated. Completely vanished into thin air. There are no bodies, no bones, no signs of a struggle. Houses that once stood strong have been completely dismantled and taken away. The only clue left behind in the eerie. Silence is a single chilling word carved into a wooden post, Croatoan. This isn't a Hollywood horror movie and it's not an urban legend. This actually happened right here in America. 115 men, women, and children vanished from Roanoke Island, leaving behind a terrifying riddle that has baffled the FBI, legendary historians, and top scientists for more than 4 centuries. What really happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Watch until the very end, because recent groundbreaking discoveries are turning everything we thought we knew completely upside down. Do not blink because every single clue counts. To understand this absolute madness, we have to travel back in time to the year 1587. The British Empire, ruled by the fierce Queen Elizabeth I, was locked in a brutal, high-stakes Cold War with Spain. Spain was conquering the New World, getting insanely wealthy from gold stolen from South America. England wanted a piece of the pie and they wanted it fast. Enter Sir Walter Raleigh, a charming, highly ambitious explorer and a favorite of the Queen. He convinced Elizabeth to let him establish the very first permanent English settlement on the shores of the New World. The location selected was Roanoke Island, located just off the coast of what we now call North Carolina. But Raleigh made a crucial, highly unusual decision. He didn't just send rugged soldiers, hardened criminals, or rough miners. He sent regular, everyday families. He sent tailors, blacksmiths, farmers, young wives, and little children. 115 innocent souls, looking for a fresh start and a prosperous life. Leading this brave group was John White, an artist and a close friend of Raleigh, who was appointed as the governor of this new world. Among these hopeful colonists was White's heavily pregnant daughter, Eleanor Dare. On August 18, 1587, amidst the humid air of the island, Eleanor gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Virginia Dare. She was the very first English child born in the Americas. At that moment, the colonists felt like they were building paradise. They had no idea that this beautiful paradise was about to transform into a living, breathing nightmare. The paradise didn't last for long. The colonists had arrived far too late in the season to plant crops. Their food supplies were dwindling fast. To make matters worse, the local Native American tribes weren't exactly thrilled about these new white intruders. A previous English military expedition on the island had already angered the locals, and tensions were boiling over into violence. Realizing they wouldn't survive the brutal winter ahead, the desperate colonists begged Governor John White to sail back to England and return with food, heavy tools, and reinforcements. White desperately did not want to leave. His daughter was there. His tiny newborn granddaughter was there, but he had absolutely no choice if they wanted to live. Before he stepped onto the ship, White made a secret, clever pact with the colonists. He told them, if you are forced to leave this island due to danger, starvation, or an incoming attack, carve the name of the place you are going onto a tree or a fort post. And if you are in extreme distress, carve a Maltese cross above the name. With a heavy heart, White sailed away, promising to be back in just a few months. He had no idea that a massive global war was about to trap him across the ocean, sealing the tragic fate of his family forever. Just as John White's ship anchored in England, absolute chaos broke out across Europe. The Spanish Armada, the greatest, most terrifying naval fleet in the world, launched a full-scale attack on England. Queen Elizabeth I issued a strict, non-negotiable command. Every single English ship was seized for the war effort. No civilian ships were allowed to cross the Atlantic. John White was utterly devastated. He begged the politicians, pleaded with the Queen, and even tried to smuggle smaller boats out, but every attempt failed miserably. Year 1 passed, then year 2. Then an agonizing year 3. For 3 long years, White lay awake at night in London, listening to the rain, wondering if his little granddaughter Virginia Dare was starving, freezing to death, or being hunted in the woods. Finally, in August 1590, the war with Spain ended, and White frantically secured a passage back to Roanoke Island. It was August 18, 1590, ironically Virginia Dare's 3rd birthday. As White's ship approached the shores of Roanoke, the crew spotted a thin column of smoke rising from the island. Hope flared up inside White's chest. They blew a loud trumpet and sang traditional English. Songs across the water to let the families know their savior had finally returned, but no one answered. The silence echoing from the beach was deafening. When White and his armed men stepped ashore, they walked into a scene that sent pure ice through their veins. The settlement was completely empty. The houses hadn't been burned down or destroyed by an enemy. They had been methodically dismantled and carried away. There were no signs of a sudden attack, no decomposing bodies, no shallow graves, and absolutely no blood in the soil. Then they found the very first clue. Carved deep into the bark of a tree near the beach were the letters. C.R.O. White's heart pounded against his ribs. He ran through the brush toward the main settlement. The village was surrounded. A heavy, high wooden palisade built like a fort. On one of the main wooden posts at the very entrance, someone had carved a single word in bold, capital letters, Croatoan. White immediately remembered the secret pact. He looked frantically above the letters. Was there a Maltese cross? Was there a sign of violence or distress? There was nothing, no cross. White breathed a massive sigh of relief. This meant the colonists had left willingly. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, inhabited by a friendly Native American tribe led by a chief named Manteo, who had been to England and loved the English people. White believed his family was safe on Croatoan Island, just 50 miles south. But then nature struck a cruel, unforgiving blow. Before White could sail south to investigate Croatoan, a violent, monstrous hurricane slammed into the coast. The ships lost their heavy anchors, their freshwater supplies ran dangerously low, and the exhausted, terrified crew mutinied. They refused to go any further. They forced White to abandon the search and sail back to England. John White was broken, penniless, and powerless. He could never afford another expedition to the New World. He died a few years later in poverty, never knowing what truly happened to his precious daughter and granddaughter. The 115 colonists were officially lost to history. For centuries, the disappearance of Roanoke sparked some of the wildest, most terrifying theories in American history. Generations of researchers have tried to solve the puzzle. Let's look at the top theories that have kept historians awake at night. Some believe Spanish soldiers marched up from Florida, discovered the English colony, and slaughtered everyone to eliminate their imperial competition. It makes sense on paper, but Spanish records from that exact era have been thoroughly searched. While Spain wanted to find and destroy Roanoke, their confidential logs show they never actually located it. In fact, they were still looking for it years after everyone vanished. Theory number 2, the Native American Massacre. Another terrifying theory suggests a hostile tribe, perhaps led by the famous Chief Powhatan, the father of Pocahontas, brutally murdered the colonists. Years later, Powhatans, the father of Pocahontas, brutally murdered the colonists. Years later, Powhatan allegedly claimed to a British explorer that he had killed white settlers. However, archaeologists have dug up the entire area, and no mass graves, broken bones, or signs of war have ever been found on Roanoke Island. Theory number 3, the ocean tragedy. Did the starving colonists get tired of waiting, build a makeshift boat out of their dismantled houses, and try to sail back to England on their own? The Atlantic Ocean is a graveyard of ships, and a poorly constructed vessel would have sunk within hours. But if they built a boat, why carve the word Croatoan, which pointed explicitly to a specific land destination? Theory number 4, the integration. This theory suggests the colonists simply packed up, walked away, and moved in with the local tribes, marrying into their culture to survive. While it sounds the most logical, for hundreds of years, it lacked concrete scientific proof. Until now, for over 400 years, Roanoke was called the Lost Colony. But in recent years, modern science and advanced archaeology have finally started to break the silence of the ghosts. The first massive breakthrough occurred at the famous British Museum. Historians decided to closely examine an original map drawn by Governor John White himself back in 1587, called the Virginia Pars map. Using advanced modern imaging technology, they noticed something incredibly strange, a tiny patch of paper layered over a specific spot on the map. When they X-rayed underneath that patch, they found a hidden symbol, a large two-toned fort symbol painted in secret invisible ink. And where was this secret fort located? Exactly 50 miles inland at the junction of the Roanoke and Chowan rivers. Why hide a fort on a map? The answer is simple: spies. White knew Spanish spies were everywhere in London, and he didn't want them finding out where the colonists were planning to build their backup fortress. Archaeologists rushed to this secret inland location, now famously known as Site X, and what they found shocked the scientific community. Deep in the dirt, they dug up authentic English-style pottery, metal tool fragments, and pieces of early firearms that date precisely to the late 1500s. These weren't trade items sold to natives. These were domestic, everyday items, used exclusively by European families, but the evidence gets even crazier. On Hatteras Island, which was called Croatoan back in 1587, archaeologists dug deep into the soil and discovered a spectacular 10-carat gold signet ring engraved with the image of a horse. Historical records showed this exact ring belonged to a prominent English family related directly to the Roanoke colonists. They also uncovered 16th-century English iron axes, writing slates, and gun parts buried right alongside Native American artifacts. The incredible truth is finally coming to light. The colonists didn't vanish into a supernatural void or get eaten by monsters. They survived. Facing starvation, they made a smart tactical decision and split into groups. Some went south to live peacefully with the friendly Croatoan tribe, while a core group of leaders moved inland to build the secret fort at Site X. They integrated, they fell in love, they survived, and their English bloodlines blended permanently into the early American landscape. The lost colony was never truly lost. They were just forgotten by a world that took far too long to look for them. The word Croatoan wasn't a terrifying curse, it was a brilliant roadmap to safety left behind by a family trying to guide a desperate father back home. But here is a chilling final thought to leave you with tonight. In the centuries following this mystery, the word Croatoan has mysteriously reappeared at some of the most tragic, unexplained events in American history. It was found scribbled in the personal journal of the famous horror author Ambrose Bierce Wright before he vanished off the face of the earth in 1913. It was found carved into the wooden bedpost of the legendary poet Edgar Allan Poe as he lay dying in delirium in a Baltimore hospital. And it was reportedly written on the final pages of the logbook of the ghost ship Mary Celeste. Is it just a series of bizarre coincidences, or is the word itself a powerful curse that attracts misfortune? What do you think really happened to little Virginia Dare and the lost settlers of Roanoke? Let me know your wildest theories in the comments below. If you loved this deep dive into America's greatest historical mystery, make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube or follow and share this video right now on Facebook. Smash that like button, turn on your notifications, and don't miss our next video where we uncover the dark secrets they don't want you to know. See you next time.